Subscribe because it's free.
The Zorvash Dominion had conquered over 50 civilizations, each one falling faster than the last. Commander Zelvar had seen it all. Species begging for mercy, empires collapsing in weeks, entire planets reduced to silence. And now, he stood on the surface of Earth unimpressed. A backwater world, clinging to its primitive weapons and laughable resistance. The humans had been given a chance to surrender, yet they refused. Arrogance, nothing more. Now, he had been sent to observe their military training, to confirm what the Dominion already believed. Humanity was weak. The human officers greeted him with precise efficiency, their expressions unreadable. No groveling, no fear. Interesting, their facility, Fort Titan, was carved into a mountain, its steel walls and reinforced gates suggesting a species too paranoid for its own good. The technology was outdated, almost crude, yet something about the sheer functionality of it made Zelvar pause. His honor guard of elite Zorvash warriors moved behind him, towering figures clad in advanced exo-armor. Their presence alone should have been intimidating. The humans didn't react. They merely observed, as if assessing him the same way he assessed them. The first training grounds were standard, rows of recruits performing combat drills, running through obstacle courses, enduring physical conditioning. He scoffed. A waste of effort. Dominion soldiers were genetically enhanced, their bodies designed for war. Humans? Their flesh was fragile, their muscles weak, their bones easily broken. And yet, they kept going. A cadet collapsed, his face buried in the mud. His superior barked an order. The soldier gritted his teeth, forced himself up, and kept running. Another recruit's arm hung limp at an unnatural angle, dislocated. The instructor didn't stop him. He shoved the limb against a steel post, wrenched it back into place, and rejoined the drill without a sound. Zelvar frowned. This wasn't normal. Most species would have stopped, called for medical attention, acknowledged their limits. The humans had no limits. One of his officers, Lieutenant Voktal, clicked his mandibles in amusement. They lack efficiency, Commander. Their bodies require too much maintenance. Zelvar nodded but didn't respond. Something about this felt off. There was no hesitation in the way these humans trained. No doubt, no second-guessing. He had seen elite forces before, but there was something different here. Something he couldn't quite place. Further inside the facility, the weapons range was equally puzzling. Humans had no plasma-based weapons, no molecular disruptors, just projectiles, primitive, kinetic, relying on chemical explosions to function. Laughable, and yet their precision was flawless. A single sniper, lying motionless atop a steel platform, fired into the wind. His rifle had no advanced targeting system, no AI-assisted guidance. Just human hands, breathing in sync with the earth. Shot, target down. Shot, target down. Zelvar, second in command, made a dismissive noise. These weapons lack sophistication. The human instructor smirked. We don't need sophistication. We just need them to die. That remark unsettled Zelvar. There was no bravado in the human's voice. Just fact. Moving deeper into the facility, the air changed. The sound of combat grew sharper, closer. The arena they entered next was darker, colder. The kind of place where wars were truly decided. The sparring pit was a brutal enclosed space, where soldiers fought in hand-to-hand combat. No weapons, no armor, just flesh, fists, and instinct. Two humans clashed before him, their movements raw, animalistic. They fought like cornered predators. Every strike aimed to maim, cripple, or kill. Do they not have rules? One of the Zorvash soldiers muttered. A broken nose, a shattered jaw, a bite to the throat. One human fell, coughing blood. The other, barely standing, was already preparing for another opponent. Zelvar had witnessed countless gladiatorial fights across the Dominion. They were sport. They had structure. This was not sport. This was survival. The human general, overseeing the training, gestured toward the pit. We can arrange a demonstration if you'd like. A challenge. Zelvar nearly scoffed. One of his warriors, a behemoth with enhanced reflexes and reinforced bone plating, stepped forward. It would be an honor. The human they chose was smaller, leaner. He removed his combat vest and cracked his knuckles. His face was unreadable. The fight lasted 4 seconds. The human didn't hesitate. The moment the match began, he closed the gap, ducked beneath the Zorvash's reach, and drove his fingers into the alien's throat. A precise surgical strike, blindingly fast. The warrior staggered. Another hit to the temple this time. He collapsed before he even knew what happened. Silence. Zelvar's warrior shifted uneasily. He studied the human, expecting celebration, arrogance. There was none. The soldier simply stepped back, waiting for orders. No triumph, no pride. Just another exercise. Zelvar's mind reeled. No species, none, had ever overpowered a Dominion warrior without enhancements. What had he just witnessed? They moved on. His mind struggled to process what he had seen. He needed to understand. Why do you push your soldiers to such extremes? Zelvar finally asked. The human general gave him a long, measured look, then a simple reply. Because in war, pain is temporary. Defeat is permanent. The word sat heavy in the air. For the first time since arriving, Zelvar felt something unfamiliar creeping into his mind, a sliver of unease. And deep within that unease, the first whispers of fear. Zelvar had witnessed hundreds of military doctrines across the galaxy. They all followed the same principles: discipline, formation, technological superiority. Wars were won through logic and calculated force. But as he observed human training, he saw something different, something wrong. Their combat simulations were chaos, and yet they thrived in it. The first exercise was simple: a small team of Dominion soldiers against an equal number of human cadets in an enclosed environment. No advanced weapons, just tactics and adaptability. Zelvar expected a swift Dominion victory. His soldiers were stronger, faster, and armed with superior combat instincts. The match began. The humans disappeared into the environment. They didn't charge, didn't engage in predictable formations. They waited. The first Dominion soldier fell to a hidden tripwire, his own momentum sending him crashing into the floor, a waiting human finishing the job. A second was taken down from behind, throat crushed before he could react. The remaining Dominion warriors began panicking, switching to defensive stances. They didn't realize they had already lost. A final, desperate push ended with all of them down, beaten, restrained, or unconscious. The human cadets emerged from the shadows, faces calm. Not a single one had been caught. Zelvar clenched his jaw. That was not combat. That was slaughter. The human instructor turned to him, unfazed. You expected a fair fight? Before Zelvar could answer, the next lesson began. Interrogation training. The room was cold, sterile, dimly lit. A captured human sat restrained in a chair. This was a simulation. Zelvar reminded himself. The interrogator was a fellow soldier, playing the role of an enemy captor. And yet, as the scene unfolded, he felt an uncomfortable chill. The captor applied pressure, pain, psychological tactics, everything that should have broken an ordinary being. But the human in the chair didn't just endure. He smiled. Every question was met with defiance. Every attempt at intimidation was countered by manipulation. At one point, the prisoner twisted the words of his interrogator so effectively that it seemed as though the captor was the one losing control. Zelvar had seen prisoners fold in minutes. He had seen beings betray their own people under the slightest discomfort. But here, the human was turning his suffering into a weapon. Finally, the instructor spoke. Humans don't just resist interrogation. We make our captors regret ever trying. Zelvar found himself gripping his wrist, unsettled. In the next room, survival training took an even darker turn. Cadets were placed in extreme conditions, starvation, exposure, brutal psychological pressure. Yet not a single one broke. One soldier, after 72 hours without food or water, was thrown into a combat scenario. Zelvar expected weakness, sluggish movements. Instead, the human fought like a rabid animal, wild, unpredictable, fighting past exhaustion as if it didn't exist. Why do this? Zelvar finally asked, "This is beyond necessity. No species should have to endure this." The human general's expression remained cold. "You don't understand, Commander. This is necessity." Zelvar watched as cadets in torn uniforms helped each other stand, bloody but unbroken. They were teaching something beyond tactics, beyond discipline. They were teaching how to suffer and still win. Something alien settled in Zelvar's gut. This was not training for soldiers. This was training for monsters. Zelvar had thought he understood war. He had believed the Dominion's warriors were the pinnacle of combat. But this was something else entirely. Humanity didn't train for war. They trained for survival at all costs. The next demonstration was unlike anything he had witnessed before. Urban warfare simulations. A walled training ground transformed into a ruined cityscape. Collapsed buildings, tight alleyways, a perfect replica of war-torn terrain. His own Dominion soldiers would face human cadets once more, but this time, the scenario was different. The Dominion troops were superior in numbers, technology, and firepower. The humans, outgunned, outmatched, forced to defend with nothing but their wits. Zelvar expected a desperate last stand. Instead, he saw something far worse. The battle began, and the humans vanished. They moved like ghosts, darting between shadows, using the wreckage to their advantage, striking without mercy. Dominion soldiers moved in coordinated squads, clearing each sector systematically. But something was wrong. The bodies of their fallen weren't left behind. They disappeared, dragged into the darkness, taken apart. "Where are the humans?" one of Zelvar's officers murmured. A scream, cut short. Another soldier vanished into the smoke. Zelvar's eyes narrowed. This wasn't warfare. This was hunting. One squad panicked, breaking formation. The moment they did, the humans struck. Silent knives cutting throats, hidden explosives turning cover into death traps. When it was over, not a single Dominion soldier remained standing. Not one. The human survivors emerged, blood-streaked but calm. Not victorious. Not relieved. Just waiting for the next fight. Zelvar felt something he had never experienced before. A deep primal dread. This wasn't a species that fought for honor. They fought to erase their enemies. And then came the final lesson. They led him into a dark, soundproof room. In the center stood a single chair. The general gestured for him to sit. Zelvar hesitated, but complied. The lights dimmed. A low hum filled the air. Then, a voice. Human. Cold. Emotionless. It whispered threats. It fed him lies and truths so seamlessly intertwined that he felt his grip on reality slipping. Minutes passed. Or was it hours? The words burrowed into his mind, shifting, twisting. He had endured telepathic interrogations before, endured the Dominion's most brutal training. But this was something else. He felt his will breaking. When the lights returned, Zelvar was shaking. The human general stood before him. Psychological warfare. The battle before the battle. Zelvar stared at the humans around him. They were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. But they were something far worse. They were inevitable.